the sake of the camera, to read that again, and then he can compose himself and be able to answer you.
See, this is why.
Sorry,
Right, okay.
bad.
I'm reading this again. Are you recording now? Okay.
We love you. Why, man?
We love this guy as well. We love this guy.
Yeah, me. We love you, me.
All right.
Thank you.
Come to Christ.
There we go. So, have you not seen how your Lord dealt with the followers of the elephant? This is Surah 105.
Yeah.
Did he not make their plot go into great error? And he sent against them swarms of birds, throwing at them rocks of baked clay, that he made them like eaten leaves. And that's the end of it.
Then why is that a problem?
It is a problem because in and of itself, the Quran does not explain what that means. So the Quran is not self-explanatory. You don't have the ability, without going outside of the Quran, to know what that's about.
Yeah, with some stuff, yeah. With some stories, of course, yeah. But that's not a problem, and so on. That's not a problem. Is
Right,
it?
so the Quran contains unclear things.
Not unclear things.
Well, I mean, the Quran says it does.
Yeah.
I mean,
is clear.
it would make sense that this is one of them, right?
It is clear though.
Why is it clear? I asked you what it means. No, if you tell me what it means, then...
It talks about. Do you know the story?
Yeah, I know the story. They sent some people over to Mecca
Yeah.
from Yemen, and they brought elephants, and the elephants prostrated.
Yes.
Yeah.
They wouldn't go further.
But again, that comes from the Sunnah, it doesn't come from the Quran.
Yeah. I know.
So revelation in and of itself, unless you want to say the Sunnah is revelation.
If you're talking about theology,
Yeah.
if you're talking about theology, then it is sufficient. I would say.
For what? For what
For
purpose?
theology. For theology.
Would you lose anything if that story wasn't there?
Would I lose?
Yeah, I mean, would the Quran be lesser in some way?
I don't know. I would
All right, well, that's honest. That's honest. But my point would be that if we don't know what it means, or without going outside of it, and we just take the Quran as itself, then there wouldn't be anything lost if we removed it. The only reason that changes is because of your Sunnah, which gives it context.
Yeah, but Sunnah gives context for a lot of verses.
Yeah, it does, absolutely. That's because
Yeah.
there's a lot of verses in the Quran that, in and of themselves, aren't self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you read Surah 33, there are going to be a lot of questions about what context that was taking place in, because it refers to people that you don't really know who they are unless you go to the Sunnah.
Yeah, but that's something that we kind of we practice. That's not something that has been problematic ever. That's just something that we always refer to.
Okay, well, it's just an interesting point, right?
Yeah.
I find that the fact that there are elements in the Quran that are not clear, when the Quran says it's clear and also says it's not clear, is just a difficult theological position.
I wouldn't say so. Like, how can I say this?
Well, we've touched on the fact that the Quran affirms previous scriptures, right? I find that massively problematic.
Yeah, let's not go into that.
We won't, but...
We got because it's going to be a long discussion. I don't want.
I know, okay.
So I'm not in the. It's not the day for it. But
do you believe that you have free will?
yeah,
You have free will?
Yeah.
Do you believe that Islam teaches you as a part of the deen that you have free will?
yeah.
Do you know Al-Qadha? I can't pronounce it.
Al-Qaeda?
Al-Qadha, one of the 6 pillars of Islam?
Qada, yeah, of course.
Yeah. How do you pronounce it?
Qada,
Qadha.
yeah.
Qadha. I'll try and pronounce it that way. So that, as my understanding, is that everything is preordained according to Allah's will.
Yes, of course.
Right, if everything is preordained according to Allah's will, can you go against Allah's will?
Wait a second. No. That's not how it works.
Is it?
Everything is
Right.
ordained, like in harmony with your free will at the same time as His decree. That's the same thing. That's true in all religions. That would be true because God is the one. When for example, the phrase "everything happens for a reason," is that a Christian thing? I believe,
Yeah,
because
you
I've heard a lot of
can
Christians
say Christians say that.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's God. What is it? God fulfilling His will through your free will. Understand?
Right, so he doesn't preordain things.
So He what?
Preordain. In other words, he preordains certain things to happen that have to happen. The Sunni Orthodox position is yes, that is the case.
I would say so, but I'm not sure what you mean with it.
Right, in other words, when God created everything, did he make it so that everything that occurs inside of his will, according to his decree?
Yes, but without interference with the free will at the same time. That's also part of the.
But then
Sunni
you weren't
position.
preordained, though.
Did you say without interference of the...
Without interfering, without jeopardizing the free will. Yeah.
So, but that's not free. Like,
It's a bit tough.
put it this way: if I do something bad, who did it? Me or Allah, or both?
You.
So it was me.
Yeah.
Right. So in that case, then I've acted outside of the accordance of Allah's will.
No, you have. You have acted according to His will.
So
for
he
example,
willed for me to do that.
Let me put it this way. If I drop my phone,
Right.
is it going to drop according to God's will or no?
Okay, so in the Christian position, we would make a distinction between his will and what he desires. So we would say that everything is in God's divine providence, but what he wishes is not always what occurs, because he gave us free will. So, for example, I don't know, one of us here could go on a rampage and kill everyone. God did not wish for that to happen as part of his desires, but he is the final cause of all things, and hence he permits it. So in that sense, it's in his divine providence.
Well, that's not good. But
Why?
also there's a very distinct meaning of will when you kind of say as will and not as Mashiach.
Basically, can you act in a way that Allah has not made you act?
I cannot go to the moon.
What?
I cannot go to the moon.
No, I mean, every sin you have done, did Allah make you do it?
No.
He didn't.
No.
So you acted outside of the accordance of Allah's will and desires.
No, He willed for me to.
Or just His will.
He willed that I have a choice. Let's put it that way.
That's not Sunni Islam though, I'm afraid.
This is.
I'm afraid not.
Yes, it is. I've heard. No, bro. Trust me.
Should we get some hadith out?
The Sunni Aqidah is that what is it? The Sunni Aqidah is that everything is decreed by God, but without jeopardizing the free will. So basically, God
Right. But that's,
free will.
remember how I told you inconsistent theology?
Yeah.
It's inconsistent theology. You can't say on the one hand Allah determines all that happens, and on the other hand say, but you also have a free will. Unless you're happy with being in an irrational position.
No, it's not.
But that's the Sunni position. The Sunni position is Al-Qadar, yes, everything is predetermined according to the will of Allah. You do have free will in a way we don't know, and we can't explain how that works.
You have to believe that everything happens according to the will of God.
Our decision. He knows what we're gonna do, but we have our own free will.
Yeah.
But what we're gonna do is only Allah knows it because He knows the future.
Yeah, and that's within His will. And that's within His will.
You're sounding more and more like a Christian, because that's not what Islam teaches.
If He knows the same thing, I know the same thing,
So-
and we don't know each other.
Okay,
It's Sunni Aqidah, isn't it?
so in Sahih Muslim, yeah, but the Aqidah in the 6 pillars of Islam is Al-Qadar, which is that you are
No, stop saying
predetermined.
that, man. Just stop.
I got to practice it. Listen, alright, so this is Sahih Muslim, right? Sahih Muslim 2657.
Yeah.
Verily Allah has fixed the very portion of adultery which a man will indulge in, and which he of necessity must commit. The adultery of the eye is the lustful look, the adultery of the tongue is the licentious speech, the heart desires and yearns, which parts may or may not be put into effect.
Which is true.
Right, so there is certain amounts of adultery you have to commit.
Yeah, as a human being, yes. As a human being, you have to sin.
But then you had no free will to go against it.
Yes, you don't. You have the
Then
free
you
will
are
to repent.
then you are
The free
determined.
will-
Then
the
you are
free will
determined.
The free will is in repentance because everybody has done that. They literally-
Right. Okay, so the free will is only to repent from the act, but the act itself you have to do because Allah has ordained it to happen.
Man, you're going too deep into it. I won't lie. I'm not gonna.
Well, this way. Listen to what I have to say and think about it.
Yeah.
Just think about it, right?
Yeah.
This isn't the Christian perspective. We don't think that God predetermines things because, in our perspective, that would make God the moral monster. Because when you do sin, wait, let me just explain. Let me just explain. Wait. When you do sin, if God is the one who is making you do it, and there is no choice you have about it, then it's not really you who's doing it. It's God. And that would mean God is guilty of making people rape, making people steal, and all sorts.
You're misunderstanding it on a very big level, I would say.
Okay.
So, for example, let me put it this way. I've asked you
right.
last time. I said, "Is anybody ever sinless?" And you said only the divine. So basically,
Yeah.
you said Jesus is the only sinless person ever. And within that means that everybody has to sin. I'm not saying has to as a mandatory obligation, but everybody is gonna have to sin at some point to be human. Is that correct? Am I being fair?
To be merely human.
Yeah. So basically, yeah. So but God has willed that everybody's gonna sin, but the way you deal with the sin is the way that determines your fate.
Wait. It wasn't the intent of God to begin with that people would sin, but rather through our fallen nature. And nature means that we are unable to.
You're sounding like Mu'tazila now because they're the one who say that.
Well,
God did not
Mu'tazila were the reasonable ones in Islam.
create- No.
They were the reasonable ones because the
said-
the Sunni today is like Allah has if you Wahhabi if you Salafist you say that Allah has right hands in a way that we can't understand.
Yeah.
But that's not
but
reasonable. That's
is reasonable. That is because then you would have to say things about God which you have no kind of basis for. So for example,
absolutely.
let me put this way.
I'm fully into negative theology. I won't try and say things that I don't know for sure
I
or
cannot
can't back
define
up.
his hand, yeah,
Right.
basically. But for example,
But he has a hand.
The Mu'tazila, for example,
Rejected those.
My point was is that they said, for example, that God did not create evil because they said God is all good, so He cannot create evil, and that's kind of the place you're coming from when you say that.
Right.
Wish for us to sin.
Because evil, as we understand it, is the absence of God's will. In other words, or God's desire in this case.
Yeah.
So when He made us, He wished for us to live without sin, but we freely chose to engage in sin. That was evil. So God, in effect, is the final cause of evil, but He is not the efficient cause. He is the one who sustains things,
Yeah, but
because
He's all-knowledgeable.
overall, there is good that can come out of evil.
But He's all knowledgeable. He's all knowing. He's all knowing though.
Sure, I agree with that, yeah.
Yeah,
But
so
the
he
Sunni,
knows.
I'm describing the Christian position. The Sunni position is actually, no. Allah has predetermined and decreed everything that occurs, which includes evil.
Yeah, but you have to look at it.
Then he's the one who does evil.
You have to look at it. You have to look at it from certain with certain context, which is pretty hard to explain to you.
Oh, sorry,
I don't want to go into it
No,
now.
it's fine.
What the surah is it? Which surah is it?
So it comes partly from the Quran, because they argue from the Quran. I was quoting hadith. I know you don't like hadith, so I'll go back outside of hadith.
Mu'tazila, we can't say the kuffar.
Mu'tazila were Qurani people, yeah?
I think
And
so.
you sin, you killed him.
No, stop.
Yeah?
Shame on you.
Yeah,
Yes, they kill him because they-
Abdullah ibn Hanbal killed the Mu'tazila.
They are Qurani. I'm not 100%.
Abdul
I know
ibn
Mu'tazila are Qurani.
Hanbal killed. Yeah.
Yeah, because they.
Told me events that Sunni killed Mu'tazila.
Yeah, I'm with Mu'tazila.
I know. Told me what events that Sunni have killed Mu'tazila. Told me.
I'm not sure.
You don't sure, so
But I
you're
know
not saying
that-
anything.
But I know that they have
No,
killed
but
him because
one second. Tell me what events
What
happened
is that, do you know?
Mu'tazila have killed. So Sunni have killed
Oh, it's
Mu'tazila.
Christians and
you
Muslims.
won't
Okay.
because I haven't checked.
Thank you.
I haven't
Yes,
said
I
anything.
just wondering if it's something
I know
new.
that they have
Surah 9, ayah 51,
me
saying nothing will ever befall us except what Allah has destined for us.
I know who's
He is our protector, so in other
You
words we
told
trust.
me
Yeah,
Sunni
so that's the
have
beautiful
killed
verse.
Mu'tazila.
Right, so that means that
what-
everything that happens must be the decree of Allah.
But you literally have to look at it within a certain context. I don't know, it's hard to explain.
My friend, I think you're struggling because I think this is
No, I'm
new.
not struggling. I
Well,
literally
this
fully
is new.
understand it, but I find it hard to explain.
Okay, that's fine. Well, this is a very deep topic, right? It's not easy for me or for anyone. My point is that in Islam, Sunni Islam, my understanding is that Allah has predetermined and predestined all of His decrees, everything that will happen. There is a way in which you have free will. They don't tell you how that even works because those things, they contradict each other.
They don't.
Reason about it, my friend. Think about it. The Christian position is not this. The Christian position is not that God determines all things and you have to do them. Because we would say that makes God the moral monster. Because that would mean that God is the one who makes evil and it makes it happen.
Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about
Okay, you're changed, that's fine.
I lean more on the Quran.
Yeah, I understand.
Are you reading the Bible, by the way? Have you read stuff of the Bible?
I'm going to start reading it.
Okay, that's
I
good.
do reject
I would suggest starting with the Gospel. A Gospel. So you have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Yeah.
One of those.
One of those, yeah.
Yeah, I would suggest that.
I was actually starting with Genesis and I was overwhelmed.
Yeah, the thing with Genesis is that you've just gone into like super Hebrew Jewish context, and if you want to learn about creation, then go there. But and also sin, I guess, and also original sin. But if you want to learn about what Christianity, the final message is, a gospel will explain that to you.
Alright, well, I'll start. Let's see.
It's fine, man.
Another thing, one last thing.
Yeah.
Last time, you quoted why Jesus said, the Lord said unto my Lord. The Lord said unto my Lord. The
Psalm
Psalms,
110.
Yeah, and you said that's a Trinitarian verse.
Soon, yeah.
And I just have one thing to say about that.
Sure. I think you probably heard that from someone else other than me, but yeah.
No,
but where?
I've heard it from you.
Really? So I bring up Psalm
With him.
110.
We were speaking three of us. And you said the Lord said unto my Lord. And you said, funny, that's a Trinitarian verse. And you said,
Oh, okay. Right. Fair enough.
the Lord, now we're speaking on the Lord said unto my Lord.
Psalm 110.
Yeah, and why is that Trinitarian verse? Just
Well, the way that
What's the Lord said to my Lord?
yeah, the Lord said unto my Lord.
get up? Can I
Yeah,
read it?
it's Psalm 110.
انه
I read
السيد
it?
المسيح يجي
Yeah,
من
man.
من باب الجامع الشرقي سوف
Hey,
يخرج
Psalm 110,
How do you say him?
The Lord said unto my Lord. And then Jesus quoted as well sometime.
He did, yes.
And that's all.
But I want to, before I make my point, I want to explain to Stanley why is the Trinitarian verse.
So you're going to get better answers from better people on that one. It's something I have yet to study on, like deeply. I'm aware of the verse. I know roughly the argument, but probably not well enough that I could defend it and give it due justice. If I wanted to defend Trinitarianism, I would defend it in different verses, basically. So I'm just being honest with you. There are other brothers that can defend that better than me, and I don't want to start explaining it and then giving you not the best explanation of it.
Well, that's fair enough.
When I mentioned it in passing because I'm aware that it's used that way. But myself, right now where I am, I need to learn more and study more.
All right, cool. That's fair enough. That's not good.
Slightly different. It's the same, but slightly different resistance.
That's cool, man. Yeah, well, you know, we're all at different places, and we all have to keep learning and keep studying. So.
Any wrap up word?
Yeah. So my friend here is going to be a Christian one day.
Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll see about that.
Say again.
We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. Well, I'm hopeful. But we had a really nice conversation. One of the things that I think is quite interesting, and I want to talk a little bit more about at the park, hopefully with some of the other Muslims, is the idea that in Sunni Islam, their understanding of determinism is that everything is predetermined according to the will of Allah and the decree of Allah, and this is one of the 6 pillars of Islam. Now they believe that while that's true, there is a way in which you have free will. I don't think that's logically consistent, and I don't think Muslims could explain that. I think it's just a mystery that they accept.
I think it's easy. I'll tell you what. Next time.
Next time,
I'm gonna come to you.
That's fine,
I'm
man.
gonna bring a.
I love to learn. I love to
I
learn.
literally will. Because I don't think I truly don't. I just don't think that you're looking at it from like the
Fair enough,
correct
man.
lenses.
Absolutely.
So I'll try. I'll literally. I'll come back to you on that one.
No worries.
I'll come back to you on that one.
That's fine. So we'll have more conversations about that in the future, which will be great. What I wanted to do is just contrast it. Wait, quick. What?
Go hurry up. No,
Right. All right. Going to contrast it with the Christian belief, and the Christian belief is superior in regards to God's free will and divine providence. Anyway, God bless you all, and I hope my friend here comes from Christian one day. And God bless. Take care, bro. No.